What's good, everyone? Dragoon back again with another video. The next 2 weeks for Halo are going to be big. Not only do we have the PC release for Halo 3 tomorrow, but on the 23rd, fans and players will finally get to see gameplay of Halo Infinite. To say I'm excited would be, well, a massive understatement. If you've been watching the channel, you know how much fun we as a community had on Halo 3 PC during this last flight. The game feels good, and in general, I think it's safe to say that the vibe going into this one is pretty hype. I want to take some time to talk about why this Halo 3 PC release is so important to so many people, some of the history of Halo 3, the nostalgic feels, and more. First, I'd like to show you some of the new unlocks coming with the Halo MCC update for Halo 3. 343 were very kind in giving me early access to H3 PC, so I wanted to have some of this footage running in the background. So with the new update, not only is Halo 3 arriving, but a new season of progression unlocks are finally here, this time adding a ton of new weapon and vehicle skins to Halo CE. Fear not if you are a purist and don't want to see any of these in your game. There's an option in every player's menu to turn off these skins if you don't want to have your immersion broken. Personally, I adore weapon skins, and to see stuff like this coming to MCC, like this new original content, pretty exciting. My absolute favorite has got to be the Jurassic Park Warthog. You've outdone yourselves. This is amazing. So if any of you guys are wondering, it is my understanding that you can still purchase any unlocks you want from the previous season. You just cycle between them and you spend your points however you see fit. I don't think you're going to lose access to any of these things. It's pretty much you can push for progression in whichever one of these two seasons that you want content from, which I think is pretty darn cool. There are still a lot of players I know who have yet to finish the previous season's progression, especially those of you who bounce between PC and console. I know some of you are out there. As such, I think it's safe to say that this route that 343 have put forth, where you get to choose which season to spend your points on, that's pretty awesome, and it's not time locked. I know with plenty of modern FPS games, there's that really disappointing FOMO if you don't get all the stuff in your battle pass before the next one starts. It can feel a little bit like wasted money in some senses. So I think a lot of players will be pretty happy with how 343 is handling this one. I do wish there were some Halo 3 weapon skins thrown in here, but what's here, it's pretty pog, plus I'm sure there's more to come. So why then is Halo 3 on PC such a big deal? Well, simply put, it's what a lot of players feel was easily one of the best games in the entire franchise, and was one of the most important FPS releases in history. I remember going over to a friend's house who had purchased Crackdown, specifically just to get access to the Halo 3 beta. We would take turns running Slayer matches on Snowbound. Now, all the way back then, it was easy to tell people knew Bungie was onto something very special. Halo 3 would eventually sell 14.5 million copies, a high watermark for the franchise to this day, and at the time, it was the fastest selling video game ever. It also held the record for the biggest entertainment launch in history with $170 million in sales within the first 24 hours, $300 million by the end of the first week. Halo 2 was a big deal as well, with over 8 million copies eventually sold, but the cultural phenomenon that occurred with Halo 3 was unlike anything players had seen before. All you have to do is mention the word Believe to a longtime Halo fan, and you can see their eyes light up. The Believe marketing campaign was unforgettable. Between epic videos, live action trailers, the Monday Night Football Starry Night commercial, players were practically frothing at the mouth with excitement. For many, Halo 2 multiplayer had become a part of their weekly routine. It was a part of their life. I know for myself, I had a pretty bad internet connection at the time, but I would go over to a friend's house every other week just for a chance to run Halo 2 online with him for hours and hours. When you take the combination of the great reception of Halo 2, the fantastic marketing leading up to Halo 3, it really was a hype storm unlike anything the video game scene had experienced before. It also helps too that Halo 3 delivered on launch in a stellar way. You had a rock-solid campaign that brought a satisfying end to the trilogy story, one that featured split-screen and online multiplayer co-op. Campaign scoring added an additional level of replayability to an already addictive experience. The multiplayer just flat-out rocked on day one, with both social and ranked hoppers featuring a wide variety of game types, maps, modes, and more. The new Forge mode, which ultimately would power a big portion of the community with brand new levels of replayability and custom games, some that are still a part of the main game to this day. You also had theater for both campaign and multiplayer. Campaign theater was hype. You could even watch back your films with friends. The game flat out delivered, and for many fans, it remains that Mount Everest in the series for that reason alone. We weren't waiting 6 months for the game to be finished. It took what players enjoyed thus far and added to it. There were definitely players who preferred the gameplay style and mechanics of Halo 2 more than Halo 3. I think a lot of players and fans sort of forget about this, like especially the newer ones to the franchise, but if you lived through it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, especially on the competitive front. A lot of folks initially didn't like some of the changes to the movement speed or lack of button combos, the projectile utility weapon changes, and more. But even with these complaints, you would be hard-pressed to find players who didn't recognize and appreciate just what a complete package the game was at $60 on day one. Also, the competitive community would go on to actually find some really nice settings that helped make the game play faster and made it far more interesting as a spectator to watch later in its lifespan on the MLG circuit, which we'll touch on here soon. Halo 3 would go on to win Spike TV Awards Best Multiplayer Game, the most addictive video game fueled by dew, Time Magazine's Game of the Year, Game Trailers 2007's Best Xbox 360 Game, X-Play's G4ia Game of the Year Award, IGN's 360 Best Online Multiplayer Award, and Xbox 360's Most Innovative Design. The critical reception was fantastic. You can't talk about Halo 3 without mentioning MLG. Competitive Halo was already pretty huge, with Halo 2 MLG Las Vegas, the championship, having a prize pool of $100,000 right before Halo 3's launch. That was absolutely unfathomable numbers at the time for gaming fans in 2007. Remember, the term and the culture associated with esports at the time, it's nothing like the level of familiarity like players have nowadays with esports, right? Then comes along Halo 3. Starting with MLG Meadowlands in 2008 kicking things off, and continuing with MLG offline events all the way until MLG Dallas 2010. After that, Reach, had about a 2-year stint, and then a single H4 MLG Fall Championship. Then I think Halo 5 had 2 events with MLG ultimately before just drifted away and before we were getting HCS. These MLG Halo 3 events are legendary, and some of the VODs are still available online. I would definitely recommend checking them out. Best Man has some fantastic highlight videos. The pro players on the circuit pushed the skill ceiling to an absurd high level, and it was a lot of fun to watch at the time. Even if you had your 50 in Team Slayer, that meant very little when you would hop into the MLG playlist, where teams were consistently practicing and sharpening their edge online, getting ready to compete at LAN events. And you didn't just have MLG events, man. There were so many locals occurring. I really wish I was a bit older at the time, because that's sort of a dream to get to go play Halo at a LAN, team up with some friends, and just see what you do. Even if you get 0-2'd, man, it still would be quite an experience. So let's step back and review for a second. If you were a Halo player at the time, it was incredible. Not only did you have an amazing game that released in a polished state, you also had the cultural momentum, the tidal wave that was Halo love at the time. From epic marketing to a solid competitive scene to strong reception, you name it, Halo 3 captured that lightning in a bottle, and it made it unforgettable to be a part of. Look, I don't want to make it nothing but rose-tinted nostalgia glasses. Of course, Halo 3 had issues like every other game, but I don't think you can find anyone who would argue against the absolute hype train that the game caused. It was fun, and it was really cool to be a part of. So then, why is Halo 3 on PC such a big deal to so many people? Well, it's the chance for many players to get to play this amazing game again, or maybe for the first time ever, regardless of what mechanics, style, or flavor of Halo you like best. This is an opportunity to relive a little bit of gaming history. No, we won't see the giant hype mobile that we did in 07, of course not. But you can still have some pretty epic experiences inside what a lot of players still feel like is the high watermark game within the franchise. We as a channel had a lot of fun within the flight. It felt like the chill kind of Halo fun that we've been sort of craving for a while. This is a chance to get to re-experience, even just a small bit, that old school magic. Now, MCC isn't perfect. There's been a lot of roadblocks along the way. We cover those here, man. It has not been the smoothest of journeys all the time. But overall, I'm feeling really optimistic and excited towards the future. As I mentioned at the start, with the Halo Infinite gameplay reveal now just a bit over a week away, maybe that chance to catch lightning in a bottle again isn't too far off. As a player, I'm really glad and thankful I got to live through that original Halo 3 launch, and I'm still really excited to get to now experience the PC side of things, right? And if you're a console player watching this, know that the next few weeks will absolutely light a fire and bump up the numbers, okay? It's not just a PC thing, it's just sort of the hype building, right? Who knows, with crossplay being something they're looking at for MCC, there could be some seriously epic times coming for all MCC players. I have very high hopes for Infinite, and man, I want it to deliver. I think it will, or like I said, I hope it does. I'm along for this ride and excited to see what's in store. Anyway, that's about it for this one. I hope you have a great time online reliving the dream. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe for more. You can follow me on Twitter at @PDKDragoon. I'll catch you next time.